Welcome in to Outkick the Show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Thank you for coming and hanging with me on what is, as always, a spectacular Thursday in November. And all of you out there may be wondering, my God, how is Clay Travis right about so much? How is he such a fucking genius? You might be wondering that, and sometimes I wonder it myself. Lots to get to in today's show. I wanted to hold up because I knew we had a bunch of news coming. I knew that ESPN was going to tank Disney's earnings and that it was going to be announced at 4 o'clock Eastern. I knew a ruling was coming down for Ezekiel Elliott, so I wanted to get to that as well. We begin, as always, with Outkick the Show, presented by Oddshark. Go to Oddshark for all your gambling and informational-related needs. I would also tell you, if you need a mortgage, and who doesn't need a mortgage right now that can save them money just in time for the holidays, you need to go to thehomeloanexpert.com. Tell them Clay Travis and Outkick sent you, and you get a year's free Outkick VIP when you close on a mortgage. And you know, and I know how expensive the holiday season is going to be. You're going to end up traveling when you don't expect it. You're going to end up having to buy more presents than you expected. You're going to end up buying presents for people you don't even know. You're going to look at your bank account and you're going to say, what happened? And your wife's going to be like, we had to go buy this present for, and all this stuff. And you know what I'm talking about. That's why you need to get your mortgage taken care of right now before Thanksgiving even happens. They can close you in as little as 7 days. Get hooked up now. Go to thehomeloanexpert.com. Save money for the holidays before you spend money. Do the smart thing. Get hooked up with thehomeloanexpert.com and tell them Clay Travis and Outkick sent you. Okay. ESPN, I told you months ago. I said ESPN is going to have to lay off a lot more employees. And today, Richard Deitch over at SI, who fancies himself a media newsbreaker, got caught up with Outkick being several months ahead of him and said, hey, guess what? ESPN is laying off more people. Now, I'd encourage you to go look at my Twitter account because Dan Le Batard came at me back in September and said, psh, like showing me a link about how strong ESPN's business was. And I tweeted back at Dan and I said, and I'm going to read that quote to you right now. Some of you saw it. I didn't publish it, but a lot of you saw it. And I said, pretty simply, I said, Dan, this tweet is going to look even more ridiculous. I said, Dan, when you guys fire hundreds of more people in 6 months because revenue is collapsing, this tweet will seem even sillier than it does now. That was on September 28th. Boom, Dan Le Batard. I then tweeted to him because I'm a guy who likes to take his victories in small doses. I tweeted to Le Batard, care to withdraw your September tweet to me about how well things are going at ESPN? Hashtag ESPN is the Titanic. And look, I was the first person by far in the world of sports media to understand that ESPN was tanking. I told you years ago that ESPN's business model was collapsing, that as they were losing subscribers, their cost on all their programming was going to continue to increase, and they were going to have to fire a lot of people, a ton of people, and it was going to be no doubt at all. And there was no doubt, and good Lord, I mean, I can't even believe how right I've been on all this. ESPN is now down to 85 million subscribers, and they are plummeting faster than you can say anything. And I have told you that this was coming. Disney just announced that they missed earnings again. I'll talk on some groomers. We've got so many different things to get to, but I want to look at the latest. Disney stock down nearly $4 right now in after hours after they missed earnings. I'm telling you, within 4 years now, they will be losing money. They are a dead company walking. And the thing that I've been comparing them to of late is Blockbuster Video. All that matters in today's world is whether or not you can create valuable content that's original and whether you can own it. And that's the question. That's all that matters. Blockbuster Video is basically what they do at ESPN right now. They rent other people's content and they make money off of it. That's the exact same business model that Blockbuster had, and it's reliant upon a failed distribution key. Distribution is not expensive now. 100,000 people are going to watch this show today, watch or listen to this show, either on Facebook, either on Periscope and or with our podcast. 100,000 people. The distribution costs for this show are virtually zero. Virtually zero. All I got to do is have working Wi-Fi, hit go live on Periscope, hit go live on Facebook. And my show is smarter and more honest and more entertaining than just about any show that ESPN is going to put on. So as a result, there are lots of people like me who are slowly killing ESPN. And I actually feel bad for a lot of people who work at ESPN because they've been grinding their asses off for a long time and they've had to deal with all the bullshit, awful decisions that ESPN management is making. I am in the process of writing an entire book about the collapse of ESPN and also the crazy leftward turn of politics in the modern era. I'm rolling through the book. The book will be available next year, but you guys are all going to read it. And it's like I keep having to update it because ESPN keeps collapsing even faster than I thought it was going to happen. So this is a big story. It's, I think, the biggest story in the history of sports media, the collapse of ESPN, going from not existent in 1979 to ceasing to exist now. It's a total collapse. Like I said, I feel bad for a lot of people at ESPN. Did you guys read? All right, any questions about ESPN and the collapse of the network? Any questions out there at all about the collapse of ESPN? Any questions? Katie Nolan is a friend of mine. She ain't saving nothing. But Monty Jones's radio show's been canceled. They're not saying it. They're going to say it was a decision of his. He lost 90 affiliates. Fox Sports Radio, ESPN radio is basically dead. No, I don't think there's any way ESPN can save themselves. I think they're broken. It's a fundamentally broken company. I think the best they could hope for is a slow decline as opposed to an immediate collapse. And remember, we talked about this last week when ESPN let it be known that they were not going to buy Monday Night Football, and they tried to spin the idea that they were going to have a lot more money saved and that they were going to be able to go out and spend money on other games. They're not going to have that money. That money by 2021 is not going to be there anymore. ESPN is going to be broke. And what Disney's going to have to decide is, do we subsidize the collapse of ESPN through the profits that we're making off the Marvel movies, off the Star Wars movies, off of Pixar, or do we just let ESPN slowly die a big death and hope that we can have enough success in our other markets that ESPN's collapse doesn't matter? They're trying to figure out right now, the suits are at Disney, how in the world are we going to survive as a company and grow with ESPN collapsing right underneath us? I mean, that's the truth. And they're desperately trying to find the solution, and that's why they've come after me so aggressively, because I am telling total truth. And that's why all the ESPN PR people and everybody else, they have come after me because I'm telling you guys the truth and because they don't want the truth to get out there, which means that a lot of people aren't aware of the truth of the collapse of ESPN, or else otherwise the stock wouldn't be priced where it is right now. Every time they miss earnings, the stock goes down multiple dollars, and it's at like a 2-year low now. And every time this happens, the stock collapses again. What about other cable networks? People always want to talk about other cable networks. I don't think the hit's going to be that significant. And the reason is because the other cable networks are nowhere near as big, and the other networks all put the most of their really good games on non-cable. In other words, like Fox. Let's use Fox for an example. The World Series is on Fox, right? Big Fox, not on FS1. If the U.S. had made the World Cup, the U.S. World Cup games would be on Fox. The best college football games are on Fox. The NFC is on Fox. The Super Bowl is on Fox. ESPN tried to put Monday Night Football on ESPN, and they're not going to be able to keep it there. I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to keep the college football playoff there, to be honest. And I question whether ESPN can ever even afford to bid on the college football playoff again in 8 years when it's going to go up for market again. That's the truth. So most of the other networks put all of their best programming on the major broadcast networks. And that's still doing okay because most of that money is coming from advertising. So I think what will probably have to happen is ESPN is going to have to start to move a lot of its stuff to ABC. They're going to have to move a lot of the stuff that they paid substantial sums of money for to put on ESPN. They're going to have to move it to ABC. And they're going to have to limit the losses that way. And or ESPN may have to start auctioning off some of its rights and see if it can recoup some of the money that it's put forward on these games already. I think that there's no doubt about that. That's the truth. And so that's kind of the story there. How would you turn around ESPN? I think it's fundamentally broken business. It's like nobody could have turned around Blockbuster Video because the ESPN business model is predicated on distribution. There's no reason that anybody needs ESPN now. In 1992, you had to be on ESPN because they were the only ones who could get your game out there. You either had radio or you had ESPN, and everybody wanted to be on ESPN. In 2017, everybody can go direct to the consumer. And so they also have other options out there. ESPN is a distribution network. The entire premise for ESPN's business is entirely based on the fact that they can distribute better than anybody else. Distribution doesn't have value in today's society. I can distribute something on Periscope and Facebook for virtually no cost. Everybody can go out and find their own audience directly. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to pay to be partners with ESPN now. And here's the other problem. ESPN, here's how the ESPN works. Distribution is really what they control. But ESPN has a dual tier revenue stream. Okay? One tier of that revenue stream is predicated on subscriber fees. In the space of the last 6 years, ESPN has gone from 100 million subscribers to right around 85.5 million right now. That's 15 million lost subscribers. Do the math on that. Somebody can do it on their calculator right now. 15 million times 7 times 12. All right, 15 million lost subscribers times $7 a year times $7 a month times 12 times a year. So that is a shit ton of money. Is that $1.9 billion? The amount of money there that shows up in all those numbers don't exist. 1.3 billion, somebody's saying. So you guys are coming up with a lot of different numbers. Live math. 15 million. All right, 15 million times 7 times 12. All right, a lot of 1.3 billions. What's important about that is that's $1.3 billion a year that is never going to return. Okay? $1.3 billion that is never going to return. It's not just a 1 year loss. That's all disappearing every year for the future. That's revenue that will never appear. And right now, ESPN has over $7 billion in obligations for rights fees. What you're seeing here is an easy analogy. An easy analogy is Disney loves castles, right? They love the princess's castle. Effectively, what Disney did was they said Cinderella's castle is ESPN. Let's build a metaphor here, okay? Cinderella's castle is ESPN. We got to make sure that we're going to protect it. And so what they did was they surrounded it with a huge moat. And that moat was spending as much money as they possibly could on sports rights. The idea was that moat is going to protect our castle and nobody's ever going to be able to get here. The problem was the moat flooded. And at the same time the moat flooded, they suddenly realized that Disney's business, i.e. ESPN, was built on a foundation of quicksand. So ESPN, the castle, is slowly sinking into the ground. You thought you had a strong foundation. You didn't even have a strong castle foundation. At the exact same time that all these cost overruns are flooding into the castle. And what you're going to have is a ruined kingdom. And that's what's happening with ESPN right now. And so as a result, this is just a total and complete disaster. And there's not an easy way to solve it. So the reality is they don't have any original programming. I have a thesis, and the thesis is this. All that matters in modern era is how many people love what you do. In other words, how many people love the original content that you create? Other than an occasional 30 for 30, what does ESPN create that has a shelf life of longer than 24 hours? They sit around and they talk about how great a person Colin Kaepernick is. Nobody's going to watch that tomorrow. Much less even today. The ratings are tanking in real time. They have absolutely no value going forward. They don't own the games. Think about this. When the NFL takes away Monday Night Football, ESPN retains nothing. They get no value from the games that they put on. They're just renting. They are Blockbuster Video. They are effectively, they're not making the movie Titanic in a good way, by the way, using Titanic in a good way. They're not making Avatar. They're not making whatever next James Cameron huge success is going to exist. They're just renting it and making a few dollars on the side. And even crazier, they're renting it with your money, which makes no sense at all in the grand scheme of things. And by the way, can you imagine going into somebody's Periscope feed and just typing numbers? Can you imagine being that much of a cunt? Like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go type numbers. So stupid. So as a result, this is the truth. ESPN is collapsing. The business model is broken, and there is absolutely nothing to be saved from it. Nothing at all. They are Blockbuster Video. And if you type a number in right now, phew, you're going to die. You're going to totally die. I will kill you. And that is the truth. And so I got to kill some of these guys, and they're going to vanish, and they're never going to be seen again. So that is the truth. And the truth of the matter is, this is a mess. It's a total mess. All right. Any other additional questions? How many ESPN layoffs? A lot, and it's going to keep going on, and it's going to kill. It's going to kill the company for a long time to go. Okay. Good deal. This is actually a lot of fun. I'm going to just pause for a few minutes and just kill people. It's actually a lot of fun to sit here and kill people, just to wipe people out. It doesn't hurt at all. Okay. Additional questions. Any additional questions out there? That is the story about Lane Kiffin is going to be on the show tomorrow morning. Lane Kiffin's going to be on the Outkick radio show tomorrow morning. I promise it's going to be a lot of fun, and you will love it. How did I realize ESPN was going to fail? I started doing the math. And most people didn't want to recognize what the math reflected. They didn't understand the business model. They didn't understand what was going on. And as a result, that is, there's no other way. No other way to talk about it. Okay. Question. All right, let's get to the second one. Did you guys read my story on Outkick about LeBron James lying, potentially, or at least the people surrounding LeBron James lying about a hate crime? This is one of the most ridiculous stories I've ever seen in sports media history. LeBron James, or the people that surrounded him, I believe lied about the gate. I believe they lied about a racial slur being on there. I got a statement from the group that is involved in the LA police that did the investigation. And this is an unbelievable story. In the wake of all these ridiculous stories that have happened, what in the world? In the wake of all these ridiculous fake racism stories that have happened, I think it is incredibly ridiculous that nobody has ever asked questions about whether or not there was any kind of legitimacy at all to this situation. And so, this is fun. This is a lot of fun. Hold on. Let me get a bunch of people and wipe them out forever. Just totally murder going on here. Total murder going on here. And this is actually a lot of fun. This is actually a lot of fun to just wipe out all these people. Just wipe out all these people. If you don't hang out, this is fantastic. LeBron James's people said that there's a racial slur on the gate 6 months ago. 6 months ago, I finally asked questions, and I said, what's going on here? And this was the response. Good afternoon. Thank you for your inquiry. We have heard no further with regards to that incident since it happened back in May of this year. I know detectives were investigating, but no further was provided to us. Usually with something high profile or newsworthy, we're provided follow-up information to give out to the media when it's available. Check back with us. Zero evidence that LeBron James at his Las Vegas and his Los Angeles house, that there was any racism at all. Can you guys believe this? Can you guys believe that this is actually true? That nobody but me has asked questions, that there's never been any evidence that it ever took place, that nothing surrounding the LeBron James racism on the gate that was the number one story in sports media, that there's no evidence of it now. That the LA Police Department says that there's absolutely nothing to support it. And I'm the only person that will actually ask questions. All right, what questions do you guys have? LeBron James gate, indeed. What questions do you guys actually have? It's just like the Air Force incident. It's just like the Air Force incident, just like the Kansas State incident. It's a fake hate crime. And that's the truth. Nobody will even ask questions. How will nobody ask questions about this? It just kind of amazes me. Now, are there any questions about this? Go read my article at the top page of Outkick right now, and you will be glad that you did, because it'll open up your eyes. It'll open up your eyes to make you realize, my God, there is no proof at all. And if you don't know this story, supposedly somebody wrote a racial slur on LeBron James's gate. They called police at 6:44 a.m. back in May. The police showed up at the house. They had already supposedly painted over the racial slur on the gate at 6:44 a.m. Nobody has ever seen any evidence of it at all. They supposedly took a picture, but you can't use a picture as evidence. The surveillance camera outside of his $21 million mansion wasn't working. There was nobody who lived in the Brentwood area neighborhood of LA that found any kind of evidence of it at all. Nobody took a picture. Nobody saw it out walking their dog. Nobody saw any of it. And yet the media took it and treated it as a 100% true story. It's one of the most ridiculous stories I've ever seen in the history of sports media. Just absurd. Just absolutely absurd that somebody would do this. And moreover, not just that there would be lies, but that nobody would actually cover the lies but me. Think about it. Use your brains. It's unbelievable how ridiculous this situation has become. Gate, all over again. More absurd than Michael Bennett? Maybe. Maybe more absurd than Michael Bennett. Definitely as absurd as Michael Bennett. But the fact that neither of these stories are being covered is just proof that media doesn't cover things honestly. They cover things that they want to be stories as opposed to things that are actual stories. That's the truth. And it drives me insane because I look at this and I say, how could you not ask basic questions? LeBron James compared himself to Emmett Till, the teenager who was killed in Mississippi for allegedly flirting with a white girl. How can you, with a straight face, allow LeBron James to compare himself to Emmett Till over a fake racism incident? And even if it happened, we don't know who did it. And it's just a racial slur on a gate. Could be anybody who did it. Given all the history of late, it seems to me that it's probably going to be a minority who did it to try to get attention. Because evidently nowadays, the greatest thing that can happen in the universe is that you can be a victim. I was talking about this earlier. When did that change? When did that change that people started to desire to be victims? When I was growing up, I was taught to not be a victim. Don't allow your ass to get kicked by a bully. Stand up for yourself. And if you get your ass kicked by a bully, I'm not going to feel bad for you if you come running home and tell me that you got your ass kicked by a bully. I'm not going to be sitting around empathetic, giving you a binky to suck on and your warm bottle to go to bed with at night. I got told to suck it the fuck up and stand up for yourself. Being a victim was not a desirable place to be. Look at that Air Force cadet. He made up racial slurs that sent the entire campus into an uproar so that people would consider him to be a victim. Why do you want to be a victim? Nobody should ever want to be a victim. It sucks to be a victim. Victims are awful people to be. You don't want to do that. I feel bad if you're actually a victim and you're innocent. But why would you try to create a situation where you're a victim? It's absurd to me. I don't know when the thing switched here. When it became incredibly desirable for somebody to do something mean to you so that you can wail and sit in the corner and curl up in the fetal position and cry. When did that become a desirable place to be? When did it become great to be like, hey, I got my ass kicked and all of you should feel so sorry for me? Why would you do it? And if it's going on, how does the media allow it to go on and not question it? Why over and over and over again does the alleged racist act get hundreds of stories and the corrections get 2 or 3? Right now, there are tons of people out there who still believe that everything LeBron James said is true. And the truth of the matter is there's nothing to support it. It's absurd. It's a joke. It is indefensible in every possible respect. And so I just don't understand it. I just don't understand why we allow this to happen and why there aren't more people out there on the front line fighting this battle with me. Why aren't there more people out there asking questions about this LeBron James racist gate incident? Why am I the only person to ask the LAPD about this? Why was I the only person to stand up and go at it with the Mizzou protesters and say they were full of shit? Why was I one of the only people who stood up for Ryan Lochte and Peyton Manning? Why is nobody else out there willing to point out the absurdity of these stories? I didn't start writing and talking about sports just so my worldview could be confirmed. I don't understand it. I 100% do not understand it. Yes, I agree with you. Shannon Sharpe is an idiot. Dumbest person on television today. I don't get it. All right, let me give you some gambling picks. Let me give you some gambling picks to take into your weekend. Again, I'd encourage you to read. And by the way, I got to give you guys credit. I got to give you guys credit for this. I love all of you because you have made this show a tremendous success. You guys are out there telling people, hey, you need to pay attention to Clay Travis. Have you read Outkick? Have you listened to Outkick the coverage in the morning? Go download the podcast. Go watch his Facebook. Go watch his Periscope. The amount of audience that we are producing on a day-to-day basis is extraordinary. I've said this before, but I think it bears repeating. I used to hope that one day I was going to have 100 viewers, 100 readers. Now we've got 1 million. There are lots of days where we have 1 million different people who consume our content, which is extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And some of you have been with me since the very beginning, and I appreciate all of you. And that's why I'm making you rich with my gambling picks. All right, here we go. Michigan State at Ohio State. I love Michigan State by over 2 touchdowns. FAU minus 5.5 at Louisiana Tech. I'll ask Lane Kiffin about this on the road. He's going to be on the road at Louisiana Tech. He'll be on the show tomorrow morning in hour 3. Georgia minus 2 at Auburn. Give it, go Dogs. Rutgers now up to plus 30. Nobody wants to admit that they bet on Rutgers, which is why Rutgers has been a good bet so far this year. They're 7-2 against the spread. Going to be 8-2 after the Penn State game. Tennessee at Mizzou. Mizzou minus 10. It's going to be a beatdown in Columbia, Missouri. Mizzou, blood bank guarantee. Blood bank guarantee. Look, you can criticize me for a lot of stuff. I'm going to have to block this guy. You can criticize me for a lot of stuff. My wife is hot as fuck. All right, you can criticize me for all you want. You can point out my man boobs. You can point out that I'm not particularly good looking. You can point out all sorts of insults that you want about me. But let me tell you this. There ain't very many women in America today who have got 3 kids that look like my wife does in a bikini. I mean, absolute smoke. All right? I'm telling you right now, trust me, pure smoke. You can criticize me all you want, but there ain't very many women out there, former NFL cheerleaders, smart enough to get into Vanderbilt Law School, smart enough to hook her horse to me, hook her wagon to me, that are looking like my wife looks after producing, by the way, 3 male heirs. So come after me as much as you possibly want. And I will be happy for you to come after me. But I have fucking outkicked my coverage. And if you guys end up with women who look like my wife, then you'll be more than happy for the rest of your life. All right? That is the truth. Notre Dame, -4 at Miami, going to be a win for the Irish. Florida at South Carolina, under 45.5. Under 45.5, no doubt. And Texas Tech at Baylor, the over 72. It's going to be like Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, going to be smoked there. TCU at Oklahoma, I like Oklahoma -6.5. And Kentucky at Vanderbilt, over 52. Zero doubt about that one. Arkansas at LSU, this one's going to be a bloodbath. -16.5 and the over of 56. Here is my 3-game parlay. I want you guys to hit this one strong. Hit this one strong. Mizzou -11 over Tennessee. The under on Vandy, the over on Vandy and Kentucky, 52.5. And are you ready? The under on South Carolina, Florida. That, my friends, is going to hit. It's a 3-game parlay. I love all of you. Blood Bank guarantee. There you go. Hit the vein, baby. Hit the vein. Hit the vein. Blood Bank guarantee. Mizzou -11. Get rich. I love all of you. I am Clay Travis. This, my friends, is going to be a spectacular event. Yes. What do you think? Of course I'm fucking worth $10 million. Think I'm a poor motherfucker? Of course not. I got a helicopter dick. And helicopter dicks are definitely worth $10 million. I'll see you guys. I am Clay Travis. This has been Outkick the Show.